Welcome to my final analysis of Sweet Bird of Youth. We made it to the final key scene analysis of the second part of Act 3, Scene 2. I hope you found these videos helpful. I tried to keep them short, but still really informative on some of the key moments in the play. So let's dig right in. And we're going to continue right where we left off when Princess gets off the phone. First of all, the stage directions. The news is so wonderful to her that William says she's in a daze and she's speaking to herself. So Chance is not even there. Like when she felt that the lights were all dim and the lights were only on her, she can only focus on how great it is to hear that this comeback was so successful. And she has a bit of a hyperbole by saying the movie broke box office records. It was the greatest comeback in history. So I'm sure it did really well financially. I don't know if it's the greatest comeback in film history, but that's how she's feeling about herself. So she starts on a high here in this scene. Chance, of course, is not feeling the same way. He is outraged that she didn't follow through with the plan. So he's trying to break her out of her trance and back to the reality that she was supposed to help him. So he says, talk about me and heavenly. That does it. That demand really wakes up Princess, and she doesn't react well to it. Notice her language. Talk about a beach boy I picked up for pleasure, distraction from panic. So Beach Boy, in the team's meeting, we talked about how Miss Lucy revealed that and how embarrassing that was to Chance in front of his former friends. And now she's bringing it up because she knows it's a dig at an insecurity of his. And also she's pointing out the fact that she didn't need him when things were good. She only needed him when she was caught in a nightmare, is the metaphor she uses, which is apt because remember in the very beginning, Act 1, Scene 1, Chance is awake smoking a cigarette while she was tossing in a nightmare. Well, the nightmare was the end of her career. It turned out to be just that, a nightmare, not reality. So now that she's back with hope, she does not need Chance. So we're back to looking at Princess as this egotistical diva. However, what she brings up about Chance is not entirely wrong. She's saying, you used me. And she actually stops herself from saying something worse about him. Notice she says, involve my name, which is Alexandra Del Lago, with the record of A. And then there's the dashes. What was she going to say? Was she going to say loser, failure, gigolo, degenerate, like the other men have called him? But she doesn't. So yes, we're kind of back to the Princess we met in the beginning, but there has been a change. She doesn't want to take it that far. What she does instead is come up with the excuse that Chance used her, and she's not wrong. Think about how he described the plan in Act 1, Scene 2. It was all about how it would benefit him and not Heavenly, who wanted to stay away from the public. When he talked about the plan with Aunt Nani, with his friends, it wasn't about Princess, it was about him. And then when she did come to the ballroom, or to the cocktail lounge, I should say, in the last scene and was opening her heart out to him, he did not respond. He did not care about them. He was just kind of embarrassed at her state of disarray and only paid attention to her when Tom Jr. and Dan Hatcher arrived because he wanted to pretend that he was like with her so that the men would leave her alone. So she's not wrong to say, yeah, Chance used me. So maybe she has every right to be like, who are you? I never mattered to you, so just step aside. Chance still wants to attempt, though, to make her realize that she can still go through with the plan. He grabs her forcibly and makes her turn to the mirror. We didn't know there was a mirror in this room before, but except when she was putting on her makeup, but now it becomes a symbol as well. She has physically turned to the mirror, but it's also meant to be a reflection of someone's soul, of who they are as a person. And Chance wants her to see, you betrayed me, you're a monster again. But instead of it being a negative for her, she sees it as a positive. Notice how she responds. I see Alexandra Del Lago, artisan star. She is no longer afraid to use her name. Now that the news is good about her comeback, she wants to proclaim her status as the great artisan celebrity that she was. And she turns the question back around on Chance. Well, what do you see? Chance says, well, I see Chance Wayne. But notice the ellipses and the dash before and the ellipses after. The stage directions don't say if Princess interrupted him or if he just faltered and couldn't finish his thoughts. But either way, Princess is saying, no, you're not Chance. You're France Albertson, this former co-star of mine that ended up with a 70-year-old and then committed suicide. A face that tomorrow's sun will touch without mercy, bringing his insecurity of aging into the forefront. We know his face is already ravaged. It looks older than 29. And she's saying, well, time is not going to be any more lenient with you. It's only going to get worse. And she also brings up the laurel again that she mentioned in Act 1, Scene 1. You thought you were so great. You thought you were destined for great things, but you haven't achieved any of them. Face it, pitiful monster. So in many ways, we're back in the same setting with the same characters, some of the same motifs. She continues to say that both of them are monsters, like she did in the first scene, to say that they're equal. But the difference now is that she's saying she's at least a better monster because she fulfilled her ambition, unlike him. And I love how she compares her artistry, her acting abilities to a sculpture. I have created a thing that I can veil, a sculpture, almost heroic, that I can veil, which is true. But you've come back to the town you were born in and haven't achieved anything. All you did was put such rot in the body of the girl you love that she had to be gutted and hung on a butcher's hook. That's really below the belt. So she's saying that she's been able to create a legacy. And she's right, because as an actress, even though she's aging and maybe she'll continue to get less roles, she still has all those films in her past. Audiences can still go back to that and see that like a sculpture, something that's timeless. So it's a very good metaphor for that. Unlike Chance, what does Chance have to show? Really nothing. But I do think she takes it too far when she talks about Heavenly. Heavenly described herself as dead. Tom described her as a spayed cat or dog. Here, it gets even lesser. It's less human. It's not even a living animal. Now it's a dead animal. It's just a carcass on a butcher's hook. So that's where she takes it too far, but she wants to make it clear to Chance he no longer holds any power over her. And we hear the lament in the background, so that overall emphasizes it. But I'm not sure that's the true princess, because there's a drastic change in her tone once she still wants to help out Chance. The stage directions are pivotal. Williams tells us that all at once her power is exhausted, her fury gone. Something uncertain appears in her face and her voice, betraying the fact that she would probably suddenly knows that her future course is not a progression of triumphs. She still feels a lot of sympathy and empathy for Chance, and she understands that her time is running out too. She has this momentary comeback, but who knows how long it will last. And as she looks back at her past success, she realizes she could have turned out much like Chance too if it hadn't been for some breaks early in her career. So she has changed as a character. That monster she's proclaiming to be again, I don't think is really the case anymore. And he responds to her change in tone, because notice she has this fabulous fur stole, like a short jacket, and it falls on her shoulders. She doesn't even notice because she's not really thinking about it. And he puts it back on her shoulders, and her eyes are fearful, lonely, and tender. I think we finally have broken through the facade of both these characters, and we're seeing them at their raw, vulnerable element. And I feel it makes the ending so much more impactful as a result. And notice Princess says, I'm going now, on my way. She's probably saying it very softly, and he just nods. So he's not longer trying to force her, call back Sally Powers. He knows it's pretty much over with her, and for him as well as a result. But Princess still continues. I've cut out a lot of the stage directions, but the most important one here is that William says both are faced with castration, and in her heart she knows it. This has been a big conceit throughout, figuratively and literally. All right, so the poor African-American man was castrated. They've been threatening to castrate Chance since the beginning, and even before the last time he was there in St. Cloud. Boss is castrated too, maybe not literally, but he can no longer perform. Princess might be as she ages and she gets less and less roles. So it's been an important conceit, and now both characters realize it. And it's interesting that at this moment, another symbol comes in that hadn't been mentioned before in any stage directions or dialogue, which is that there's a clock in this hotel room, and it starts to tick. So there's now dramatic effects in terms of the object and in terms of the sound effects. I mean, and it can't get more obvious. Time has run out for these two characters. And Chance finally can admit it. He says, I couldn't go past my youth, but I've gone past it. He has never wanted to face reality or face the future. He's always wanted to return. And unlike when with Aunt Nani, he refused to admit it. He thought youth could come back like magic. He's now realizing it can't. And the lament now fades away because now he's realized it's not time for regret or remorse and looking back. It's what can he do moving forward to make up for what he did. Princess is still trying to say, but you're still young, you still have a chance. I mean, he's 29, but she's middle-aged, so to her, she was still in the height of her prime as an actress, so maybe there's still a shot. And Chance is saying it's not even so much about how much time and age has passed, it's about the impurity, the corruption, and he uses her word, rot. I have so much rot in me, I'm ancient. Princess tries to laugh it off, then I must be like an Egyptian mummy, because I have plenty of that myself. Again, at this point, the characters really understand each other because they're so similar, except for some lucky breaks on the part of Princess instead of Chance. And then something odd happens, and it reveals something new about Princess we didn't know before. She has a whimsical side to her, an imaginative, almost childish side to her. She sits by him and then pretends like they're on a train, and they're just random strangers who seem to sit next to each other, and they're passing by an old European countryside, and they can see a donkey and a little shepherd boy, all to kind of distract from the heaviness of the scene. And she's even pointing outside the window as the clock's fading away, so it does seem to be working, and that Chance isn't thinking so much about time catching up with him. I love that we get this aspect of Princess because it makes her a whole character. She does care. She does feel empathy, and there's this whimsical side to her as well. And she continues it. She continues by saying the same thing, even though the clock's coming in more and more. And she says, I think they're calling our station, but Chance will no longer go with her. There's also another wonderful use of figurative language to talk about time. He compares himself to a rat, and time is a trap that's caught the rat. And the rat, trying to get away from this trap, trying to get away from time, has to gnaw off its own foot. But of course, by doing that, he's going to die. So time got him one way or another. It's just like what happened to Chance when he tried to prove himself by becoming a gigolo. So the trap got him anyway, because then of course he became impure. He gnawed his own foot off, and then there was no way he was ever going to be able to be worthy of heavenly. So it's a very, very astute simile that happens there. Then we hear Tom Jr., and we see that Princess is ready to leave. She leaves with a sort of tired grace. Grace is important. That's a regal term that you associate with a queen or a princess. But she's never acted like that before. But now she has, finally. In this last moment, she acts with grace. And her hand lingers on Chance, who she considers a companion, just like in the train story she came up with. So it shows a lot of soft tenderness in him. But she knows he's not going to listen anymore, even though she tries. Come on, come on. Chance shakes his head, and then Tom Jr. lingers ominously there. We know what's about to happen. He's about to castrate it. He's not going to fight back. Instead, he breaks the fourth wall, goes up to the audience and says, I don't want your pity. I want you to recognize me. I want you to understand that we are all the enemy of time. I think Williams is saying, don't let your ambitions corrupt you to the point you can no longer be saved. And don't think that someone else, a heavenly, will be your salvation. You have to redeem yourself. So even though it's a tragedy, Chance does what for him is the noble thing. He has caused great harm to the person he loved the most, so he deserves to be punished. And it's not right for Tom Jr. to take this action on himself. He's not the law. But Chance feels it's the right thing for him to do this. So it's Easter, no one was reborn. But it does feel like it's about penance and making sure that you can redeem for all your bad actions in life.